Hey folks, welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Dylan Silver, and today on the show I have Tyler Hennessy in Louisiana, but by way of Fort Worth, Texas. And Tyler teaches people the art of leverage and has been full-time in real estate since July and has already acquired quite a number of properties on a personal note. Tyler, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. I always like to talk about how people got into the real estate space because it's not always straightforward or obvious.
Absolutely. Everybody's road is unique. Absolutely. I grew up with a dad who's a home builder in Houston, Texas. I was in Dallas, Fort Worth, so I was about 8 years old and was in Katy, Houston, Texas area, if you know where that is.
Yeah.
Uh, People know Houston, they don't know Katy necessarily, but it's got a 7-lane highway going through it now. But yeah, grew up there, and my dad was a home builder, was in real estate. Went to school for business management. That was the road I was going to take. I'm going to take over his business, is what I was thinking. And honestly, my story is very unique because I did a 180. I ended up becoming a worship pastor for 20 years in the church world,
All
and
right.
yeah, so I got to college and then got connected with a church in Houston and got called there. Was a music guy, but I always had this love for business and this love for buying real estate, watching my dad do it. So it never left. So long story short, since I was had a full-time W-2 job as a worship pastor, I wasn't able to do that. So my wife and I we bought our first home in 2009, and we had fixed it up. And then we were like, hey, we'll sell this in a couple of years. And we did that 6 different times. And so I was just kind of doing that on the side as I had a W-2 job. And then really where things flipped for me was in 2020, COVID, right?
Yeah.
I'm stuck at home. I'm like, I got to go back to some of my business roots. And so I really just did a deep dive on, like what you said at the intro, the art of leverage, becoming your own bank, try to get out of the rat race. And so that's when I learned about first lien HELOCs. Everyone who hears the word HELOC, and in the real estate world, people know that. I know that, but they normally are talking about a second lien HELOC where you have your
Right.
mortgage and then a second lien HELOC to go maybe do a flip, or some people use it for vacation or to go buy an RV. That's not what I do. I get a first lien HELOC that takes over your mortgage completely, and I teach people about the difference in simple interest and the art of paying that balance down. And there's a lot of stuff that goes with that. But that got me to a world of buying real estate. All that to say, bought my first real estate in 2022.
So Tyler, interesting backstory. You're the first person who has your backstory on the podcast here, and I've done quite a number of these last few weeks. Um, Going from being a W-2 into the full-time real estate, of course, coming from a family where your dad was in the space helps, right? But it was quite literally a leap of faith.
Yeah.
When you went to go do that, did it feel that way, or in your head were you like, I got this, this is going to be a breeze?
No, I'm not gonna lie to you. I was scared to death. I was scared to death because you're like leaving everything you know, and we find a false assurance or hope in the W-2, the insurance, this false security. But it was the best decision I've ever made for sure.
I think, for me personally in my journey, I uh, was in the car business in San Antonio and decided I needed to make a change because I wanted more time for myself, was tired of working 12-hour days and felt like I didn't have as much control over my life really as I wanted to. And so I got into the real estate space, and there were bumps, believe me, along the way. There were many bumps along the way. For me, as someone on the outside looking in, I was started off as a wholesaler. I just got my license, real estate license, actually last week. But the deals that I was doing initially, I had no idea, and so I think a lot of people who are hearing these stories are thinking, that seems like a lot of risk. That seems like I don't want to put myself behind in any way. So Tyler, what were you doing to educate yourself when you were getting into the space full time?
Yeah. So some of this I'm trying to make it not choppy, but I actually got my real estate license when I was 22 in Texas, right before I went to be a full-time pastor. So it's just funny
Okay.
how everything comes full circle. And I want to stress I love that job. I felt called to that job, but I also felt like we talked about this earlier. Just I love connecting with people and learning. I'm a learner by nature. And so in 2020, I was stuck at home. And so I started researching ways to pay your home off faster because that's all I really knew to do at that time. This is the biggest
Yep.
debt that I have. And I'm like, well, when I pay that off, I'll do a cash out refi and I'll get into flipping, is what I thought.
Yep.
And it blew my brain up when I realized you could get a first lien HELOC, get rid of the mortgage completely. Man, I had 27 years left of my mortgage in 2020. Found this company. This guy's become a mentor and really good friend of mine now. And they quoted me 8.5 years with their strategy. And there's so much stuff on the internet that everyone's like, you hear it, and you're like, this is a scam. There's no way this is real, all that stuff. But I'll tell you from personal example, 27 years on my mortgage, joined their company. They quoted me 8.5 years, and I paid it off in 3.5 years in full, a $400,000 balance almost on my home. And so I became a believer, drank the Kool-Aid, and learned. And in that, I started acquiring properties in 22, and that's kind of how I started scaling things.
Stop living on an island and join the #1 mastermind in America for professional real estate investors. Investor Fuel is a community of hundreds of the nation's top investors working together to build stronger businesses and better lives. In addition to the amazing community of real estate investors acting as a board of advisors for one another, Investor Fuel members have access to 100% funding on purchase and repairs for our members only, a health insurance program, and benefits and discounts that more than pays for the membership of most of our members, meaning it's actually costing you money to not be a member of Investor Fuel. If you're looking to scale your business and build a business that allows you to live the life of your dreams, please visit investorfuel.com today and book a call with our team.
Okay, so let's break this down here for people who might not be aware of this. What is a HELOC?
Okay, home equity line of credit. There's also home equity loans. So you said you were in New Jersey originally, is that right?
New Jersey originally.
So if you're in New Jersey and I was in Houston, Texas, people in California, a mortgage is a mortgage. And look this up. This is kind of a funny thing to drop on people, but mortgage means death pledge by its root meaning, literally means death pledge. Look it up. So mortgages are the same across the whole country, all 50 states. Like if you get a mortgage, we're gonna have very, very similar terms. A home equity line of credit is very variable by every bank. So it's a bank owned product. In other words, there can be promo rates. I had a rate at 0.99 for my first 2 years. So people talk about, oh, a HELOC rate is variable and they're always higher than a mortgage. I'm like, well, if you know the right banks and the right bankers, you can get what's called a promo rate. And so it's a home equity line of credit. 99% of people who hear that think of a second lien, so they're trying to take equity out of their home.
Yeah.
If you have enough equity, like 10 to 20%, you can get a first lien HELOC and utilize it in a strategy to build your own, become your own bank in essence. So that's how I've done it.
So, without giving away all the game, Tyler, for folks who are hearing this thinking, wait a minute, so I got this home in the last 10 years, I'm starting to get some equity in it, there's appreciation, or, what I like to say is inflation is a real estate investor's appreciation. You want to be on the appreciation side of things, and that's just reality, right?
Yep.
And I'm thinking about, taking this HELOC out, and, I have my mortgage, it's not paid off, but I have this equity here. How can I possibly put the equity ahead of or in line with my mortgage? That sounds crazy.
Crazy, right? Yeah, exactly. So people who do burrs or people who do real estate, right? You always hear people do a cash out refi. A lot of guys do that, correct? To leverage their home, or they'll use part of their equity to go buy
And that is
property.
a HELOC, right?
No, it's not.
No.
That's called a cash out refi.
Okay.
So a HELOC is different. I mean, it's a form of a refinance, but it's a different product.
Okay.
And I mean, I work with through a company I work with as well on the side, but I work with about 100 banks in the entire country. And that's very, very little. I mean, we're talking 50 states. There's only about 100 banks that do it in the way that we prefer. And so that's like, and I'm not, we don't have to get into the weeds fully on this, but like, I ask a client, if you were a client, I'd be like, hey, do you have at least 10 to 20% equity in your home? Yes or
Yeah.
no? Is your credit score above 700? Yes or no? And are you cash flow positive each month on average? I'm not talking about when the HVAC breaks or you go on vacation, but on a normal month, are you cash flow positive? If you answer yes to all those questions, then we can have a conversation to see if it's worth it. But man, I don't mind telling you. I mean, I tell people all the time, hey, wait, you're not ready for this yet because you need to be in an advantageous state for this to work for you. But you basically can utilize your equity to start building your portfolio as a real estate agent. For me, I like to have at least 20% equity because I really am conservative. I'm not going to max out my HELOC and go
Yeah.
buy these properties and put yourself in a place that you could that could be dangerous. So there are ways to leverage it wisely and to make sure that you're staying ahead, and you're literally doing the same thing a bank does. When a bank says, "Hey, we'll loan you this for X%," they're taking your money and making money off of it anyway. So we're teaching you to do the same thing yourself. It's basically interest arbitrage.
If you're looking for consistent, high-quality leads, look no further than Investor Machine. Investor Machine isn't just another agency, it's the most sophisticated, data-driven lead generation company on the planet for real estate investors, and serves the role of being not just a lead generator for your business, but a marketing partner that is helping you achieve your goals along the way. Go to investormachine.com to learn more and schedule a call with our team today.
This is such a interesting topic that I've never heard about until speaking with you here. And
Yeah.
so in just hearing it, my mind is expanding. I'm saying, wait a minute, this is allowed? We can do this, you know? How did you find out about it?
Dude, so just so you the rest easy, I'm not, this isn't to sound cocky, or I say this with total humility. I've sold this to mortgage loan officers who've done it for 30 years. They're selling, I mean, second lien HELOCs and loans, and when I get on the phone with them, they do the same thing. They're like, "Wait, what?" And so this is not widely advertised. There are a few YouTube gurus out there that do it a different way. I'm independent and intentionally independent, but I got connected with a Michael Lush. He was a loan originator for 20 years. A guy named Nelson Nash started. This has been going on for since 1980 overseas. It was brought to America about 20 years ago, and people realized you can utilize a HELOC in a different strategy. And again, when you see a sign, a billboard in Dallas that says HELOC, they're advertising a second lien HELOC. It doesn't even say it, but it is a second lien HELOC.
Yeah.
But there are, I mean, I'm in a first lien HELOC in the home I'm sitting in right now. I don't have a mortgage. I've not had a mortgage in 5 years. And so it's all about who you know, the relationships, finding a bank manager who offers with the terms that are going to be advantageous for you. And so that, if that answers your question, it's
Yeah.
all connecting with them. Yeah.
This is so incredible. We probably could have, honestly, a whole hour and a half, 2 hour
Easily.
podcast just on the strategies involved here. But I do want to touch on how you've scaled your business. Correct me if I'm wrong, Tyler, but before we hopped on, you said you got started full time in July. That was what, a year ago?
Yeah, a little less than a year. I mean, so I've been, I started in 2020 with the HELOC on my own home just for proof of concept. I was like, I'm not sharing this until I know it works. And then, I'm rapidly paying my home down. And to talk about the fear side of, like, I knew, I grew up in it. I knew, like, to grow, you got to buy their property. But it took me till August of 22 till I purchased my first property, my first rental property. But I used some of the equity from my home, my primary home, to do that without getting a cash out refi. I already had a HELOC, so I had access. It's liquid. That's what's so
Yeah.
different. If you go put an extra payment towards your mortgage, they say thank you very much, and you can't touch it again to either sell the home or cash out refi. With a HELOC, it remains liquid. That is one of the key differentiators. So I
Hmm.
got it. I got my I started. I was still full time W-2, but I got my first rental in August of 22. And I make about 300 still. I own that home. I make about $350 a month on that. I'm paying a note on it. And as I started doing that, I acquired a few more each year, a few more each year. And then I got up my first multifamily in 23. And then July of last year, I was like, man, I was really feeling called, like, to build relationships outside of just the church walls. And so I took that leap of faith, like you said, on July 1st,
Yeah.
and I went in full time. But I've had my own Hennessy consulting firm in there part time, and now it's all become a full time gig.
Tyler, how do you feel about uh, when people are starting out, wherever they're starting out in the real estate space, whether you're a licensed agent, you could be a loan originator, you could be wholesaler, you could be buying short-term rentals, you could be midterm, long-term, right? How do you recommend people carve out their niche, and how did you do it?
That's a great question. I mean, I really do. I don't think there's a one size fits all, and that's why. And this isn't not to be a plug. The reason I do what I do is because I consult with people the same way you're even asking me questions, is to figure out their passions, kind of their desires, their goals, so we can not. If you just, like, put everyone in a box, it's not going to help them. And so it's good to figure out, hey, what are your passions? What are your goals? Are you trying to just get to a couple extra $1,000 per month of cash flow? Are you trying to replace your income? Are you trying to build for retirement? So I asked those things up front. For me, I had a goal of a number that I wanted to get to passively of cash flow. And so, and you know this, being in real estate, I used to think, man, if I have 10 to 15 doors, I'm gonna be set. And that's not the case at all. I mean, it's a long game, and so most of my stuff is long-term rentals. So instead of just doing fix and flips, which is a great world, but for me, I put 20% down on all my homes because that's my conservative way of making sure that I have equity built in and to protect me when the economy, dips like it even is right now. So I had to first step back and figure out what my goals were, and the front door for me was that HELOC, becoming my own bank, building up passive cash flow, liquidity from my HELOC, and I've used that to leverage to buy other properties.
If you're a new or newer real estate investor looking to launch or grow your real estate investing business, please check out Investor Fuel Club. It's a coaching community, but unlike anything you've ever seen before. And you can actually partner with members of our mastermind from coast to coast on deals right in your market. There's no better opportunity to build a consistent business than to literally partner with pros to help you avoid costly mistakes, avoid the need for capital to do deals, and help you eliminate your fears as you're starting your business. Learn more about Investor Fuel Club at investorfuel.com/club.
Do you regularly get people coming up to you or reaching out to you saying, I've heard of this thing that you're doing. I don't know how you're doing it, but can you tell me about it?
All the time. I got a few appointments today that will be there. I've even had good friends when I got it in 2020, like, bro, you're looking to lose all your money. You're an idiot. And all this stuff.
Yeah.
When I paid my home off in full, all of them have become clients now and are asking me what I've been doing.
Okay, so this is actually an interesting, real estate aside. So you had maybe some doubters in your circle, uh, and I've certainly dealt with that. How do as people, how do we compassionately deal with that without ourselves maybe lowering our self-esteem? Because we have our dreams and our aspirations, but if we're hearing from people whose opinion we trust, hey, this isn't going to work out. Honestly, you're maybe setting yourself up poorly. How did you cope with that?
It's hard. I mean, that's a great question. It's very hard because it's mentally taxing. And I don't want to be someone out there just trying to prove everybody wrong, but I'm a person who operates off of facts. And so that's why the first year, like I said, year and a half, I didn't tell anybody what I was doing. And I wasn't like
Mm.
hiding anything, but I was like, I'm going to do proof of concept to myself first. Now, once I believe something, and I mean this respectfully, I don't care who you are. I don't need to prove it to you. Like if you don't believe it as the podcast host, that's okay. Like I'm like, hey, bro, like we can virtually shake hands and go on your way. But if you call me after this, like I'd like to learn more about it. I love to help people. Like my heart and my passion is to help people. And so when you see people's lives get better from it, those who want to learn, I'm happy to help. Those who think don't know what I'm talking about, it's okay. I can't make everybody happy, and I can't prove myself to anybody.
Tyler, I'm in the same boat as far as helping people. I really feel like, although I don't have any deeds in my name, and I feel like in order to be a real estate investor for real, I need to have some deeds in my name or an LLC that I own. I do feel like when I get to that point, the wealth building for myself personally or for my family, that's great. But what I am honestly super excited about is helping middle class and lower middle class Americans get into the real estate game because it's hard, Tyler. It is so hard right now. Like, and I'm in it, right? And so I'm seeing it's opening my eyes how much I feel like it's only going to get harder. I don't think it's going to get any easier. I think it's going to get harder. And so these strategies that you're talking about, first position HELOC, or some people have a negative connotation of this, but others, no, seller financing, being able to assume someone's mortgage, right? Or, take it over subject to, right? These are creative ways which people can get into the real estate space. And yes, sometimes doesn't always have, some people are wary about it, but I'm wary about taking out a traditional mortgage if I'm on a W-2. Like there's risk in that.
Amen. I- we just follow the mold. There's like we can't even help it. Most people just do what was told. Like, what did my parents do? What do their parents do? And they follow the mold. And that's what I'm saying. Do you look back? I don't remember the exact year. It's like 1910 or 1913. Loans used to be an open line of credit. Like farmers would like have an just like a HELOC. It was an open line, so it was liquid. But then the bank realized. Do we think the bank is trying to benefit us or benefit themselves?
And
Yeah,
so,
yeah. I mean, it's not rocket science. So they have a mortgage set up to benefit themselves. And people get so fixated on, well, I got a 3.5%. I'm like, go look at your TIP, your total interest paid. It's probably 80%. That's your interest rate. It's on page 4 or 5 of all disclosures in the entire mortgage industry. It's TIP, total interest paid. That's what people's mortgage rate actually is.
so when you say, and I hear you, but just to break it down here, when you say 80%, let's just use simple figures. You bought a home somehow for $100,000. Over the course of the loan, 80%, you're paying $80,000 in interest. So you're actually paying $180,000 for the house.
Absolutely.
Wow.
But people get fixated on their small rate, and there's 100 ways to skin this cat. I don't think this is for every person, but for real estate guys, this is a game changer. I mean, you literally you get yourself in the driver's seat.
What are the downsides to this?
For people who don't qualify, if someone said I
Mhm.
only have 5% equity, or they have a low credit score, or they're not wise with their money, but those same downsides are worse with a mortgage than they are with a HELOC.
Mm,
If you
tell me
can't
about
if
it.
you can't pay your mortgage, they take it from you. If you don't pay your HELOC for a couple months, they don't know. They just take the money out of the interest. I mean, the equity that's already in there.
Really?
Really.
Wow. Okay, hold on. So take the equity and then.
I've had clients who've lost their jobs and
Uh-huh.
literally come up to me crying and said, we would have lost our home if we were still in a mortgage, but they were able to, weather that storm for 6 months because they took money. I mean, that's a bad situation, but they kept
Yeah.
their home, right? I mean, that's way better than losing your home to the foreclosure.
Tyler, I'm gonna chat GPT HELOCs versus cash out refinances as soon as we get off here so that I can be more educated for the next conversation that we have.
I
But
can't wait.
where do you see this scaling to? I mean, you're the first person who I've spoken to who has ever brought this to my attention. Where do you see this growing to?
Yeah, man. So I don't take credit for coming up with this. Again, I'm all about connecting with people. I'm a learner by nature. My clients, one thing I require is they have to be teachable. If they're not teachable, they're not allowed to be a client of mine. And that's not to be rude. It's just that we have to remain open to things. So I was taught this from a good friend, Michael Lush. He has a company with over 9,000 clients. I am one of his clients, and he's coached me up where I do this on my own. So right now, I started my Hennessy consulting firm. You can find it on hardmakesyoubetter.com or hennessyconsulting.com. It goes to the same place, but it's all about your mindset, going against the grain, not just following the financial institutions, not just doing what was fed to us. I like to tell people the same, and this won't resonate with everybody, but the same way homeopathic medicine is kind of fighting against traditional medicine, I feel like that's what I'm doing to traditional finance. I'm trying to find different ways that put us in the driver's seat that benefit the blue collar worker, like you talked about. And so that's everything that I'm doing. So I am currently even building out a team to help people with HELOCs, solo 401ks. I help with alternative asset investment, different real estate trust deeds. I'm sure you're familiar with that being over in Texas, and all
Yeah.
sorts of things. But it's all about helping the individual get into the driver's seat for themselves.
We need more people like you, Tyler, because the lower middle class and the middle class right now is suffering, right? And so I see a fork. I see personally, this is just my opinion, that we're having like a moment in American history where you have wealth and then you have almost lower class and poverty, and the middle class is diminishing because everyone is living check to check, credit cards maxed out, having to rob Peter to pay Paul just to get their bills not even balanced, but just stuff not taken away from them. And these strategies, which are really high level real estate strategies, have for the most part been for decades, maybe been around, but they've been behind a wall where people can't access them. And so to me, I look at it, and I think we probably share this sentiment, is I want to help as many people get into real estate as humanly possible. And I understand not everyone's going to be receptive to it, but those who are willing to listen, I'm willing to help.
Amen, dude. You're speaking my language. I agree completely, and I think it is the wealthy becoming wealthier. And I'm not hating. I'm not one of those people who hates against people who've actually helped further our country. But uh, I believe the middle class is rooted, trapped in fear. They're trapped in complacency, and all they know to do is like, all right, I guess I designate a little money to my 401k and put my head down, and maybe I'll retire when I'm 70. I'm like, man, there's got to be some better alternatives, and that's what really drove my motivation to begin with, of like, I want to figure out and learn. And so I've been on, different podcasts to learn from people. Different people ask, will you mentor me, will you help me learn how you do it? And I paid for a lot of stuff to learn, because it's worth it to help others in the long run and my own family.
Do you have any coaching that you're doing?
Yeah, so it's Hennessy Consulting. It's but dude, I feel like I'm unique in the sense of I'm not your traditional guy who's gonna like have a 1 through 10 steps. I'm gonna sit with you just like this. I'm gonna get to know you. I'm gonna ask you like I had a guy this morning at 8 a.m. and just said, hey, tell me what your goals are. What are you trying to do? I want to make sure I'm catering it uniquely to the individual, as opposed to trying to force my stuff onto them.
Are there any areas in the country where this is not possible or more challenging, or can you use this strategy pretty much in every state?
Yeah, so it's that's a great question. What's funny, my home state, where you're at, Texas, is the hardest state to do it. I'll give you a very, very quick story, but an awesome mortgage loan officer I've been dealing with in Austin. I told you I'm trying to move to San Marcos, Texas right now.
Yeah.
Called him. He said, "Oh yeah, we don't do HELOCs in Texas in first position, which is wrong." He said, "We only do HELOCs up to a certain loan to value, which was wrong." He said, "We don't do promo rates, which is wrong." And he said, "We always have closing costs, which is wrong." I just
Hmm.
got 2 clients this month into a HELOC in Texas where I'm about to move. They paid zero in closing, and they got 80% loan to value on their home, and I'm helping them leverage it to get into some investments. So
Wow.
that's why I'm in business, is because I found a niche. But that's the hardest state. I don't mind telling you, Texas is the hardest state to do it, for sure.
What about states like California and New York?
Simple. I have clients in both states. Simple.
Interesting.
If,
So
if
this
they
is
if they qualify, like we talked about.
right. So this is almost you always hear about, Florida, Texas being so favorable to real estate investors, but this may be one instance, speaking for Texas, where it's actually maybe a little bit more challenging. So for folks who are in these coastal states where you have higher real estate prices, higher barrier to entry, just the cost of life in general can be seemingly twice as much. It's actually simpler for them to do this. That's great to hear.
Yeah, we have tons of clients in Florida and the coast, and I've quite a few in California. I mean, it really does determine. It's contingent on their specific situation. Like I said, I like to see it. They will tell you 10%. I like to see 10% equity, 20% equity, and I want to make sure they're cash flow positive on average and they have a good credit score. If they have those things, uh, it can be extremely awesome for to get them started, especially in real estate.
Tyler, I'm curious just to get your thoughts on the direction of the real estate industry as a whole. A lot of my podcast guests are fix and flippers, short-term rental, Airbnb. I had someone who does corporate housing for nurses. And we're seeing a lot of this become remote, and people doing things in new and unique ways, such as yourself. What's your general sentiment on the real estate space in the United States, and where do you see things progressing?
Yeah, I don't claim to be a pro. I will say I'm with you on when people are saying, "Well, I'm going to wait till the economy gets back up." I try to buy real estate every year, because that's one more year of appreciation long term. That's one more year of paying down debt, and that's one more year closer to my personal goals. And I do think some of these big dogs are coming in and they're taking over areas. And so if we don't get in now, it's going to be, like you said earlier, or alluded to, it's going to be way harder to get in later. And so people who are waiting for rates to come down, I have a couple of my rental properties who, are at 6.5% and 7%, but they cash flow. So I don't care. I have a tenant paying that rate for me, and it benefits them, it benefits me. And so all that to say, I think it's when's the best time to buy? Now. It's always
Yeah.
now.
It's like when people say, when was the best time to buy Bitcoin? 5 years ago. When's the
Yes.
next best time? Right now.
Exactly. And
You know?
that's the philosophy. As long as you're a good steward of what you have, and you have someone who you trust, or you know how to look at it yourself, like I'm always looking to purchase.
Tyler, where can folks go to get a hold of you?
Yeah, thank you for asking. HennessyConsulting.com. That's maybe since that's harder to spell sometimes. It's Tennessee, but with an H.
There you
But that's why I have hardmakesyoubetter.com. That's something I've said to my kids my whole life, and that's hopefully self-explanatory. But when people say, this road is hard, I'm all about, well, the hard things in life are what make you better. So be a doer. So instead of just talking about being a real estate agent, waiting for the rates to come down, waiting for the perfect scenario, which will never happen, choose the hard way. Like, hard will make you better. And I've seen in my own life when I chosen the hard path, it's shaped me, built my character. So that's what it's all about.
Absolutely. And to our listeners, if you're specifically on the coast, right, you can take advantage of this and actually it may be a simpler process than for someone myself who's in Texas. Not to say that it's not doable, but reach out to Tyler. And I think, so many people can benefit from this. You don't just have to be a real estate investor. If you're a homeowner, right, anybody can benefit from this. And that's really what I'm passionate about, and what Tyler's passionate about is kind of the democratization of real estate. And I think it's tremendous what you're doing there, Tyler. Tyler, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Dylan, you've been awesome, man. I appreciate you for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Thanks, man.
All right.